Hello everyone, welcome to Gentle Painting. My name is Rhiannon and I'm leading today's wellness workshop for Attach Niagara. And Attach Niagara is a local not-for-profit in Niagara that has been offering free and low-cost specialized trauma and attachment therapies to those who may otherwise not be able to access those types of therapies. So with Attach, I am a volunteer. So I'm happy to be doing this today, and welcome to anyone who is joining me with this Cloudy Fields painting. Now it is a finger painting, so I did leave some comments early on just so that everyone is prepared. Make sure you have some rags or paper towels. Rags are better though, and that's only because it is a messy finger painting. We're going to be using our fingers a lot. Make sure you're wearing something you don't want to be ruined. So either put on an apron or put on some old clothes, and I'm going to give everybody 5 minutes to prepare for this one. Also, you're going to need just any old glass full of water. We need water just to rinse off our brush. And then you want a brush approximately this size, just because we're going to be doing the whole background. So you want something that's going to give you a little bit of a coverage. It's not going to take you too long to catch up to me. So I am a self-taught artist. Over the years I have done some social paint nights and taught in a gallery and at different not-for-profits. I've also written and led some rec-based art therapy sort of programming in my work as a social worker, and I am currently pursuing credentials towards certification in art therapy. So that's a little bit about me and what is gentle painting. So some of you may have participated in my last 2 sessions for Attach Niagara. Attach Niagara, the Caring Connected Communities group is something that we started just to give people a little bit of calm amongst the COVID isolation outbreak and all of that. So we developed a variety of different sessions, and this was the one that I developed for that. I thought people might enjoy a little bit of time for themselves and a break from everything that was going on. Painting just allows you to relax and concentrate on one thing for a little while. Just stay present in what you're creating and have a little bit of fun too. It's a huge stress reliever for me, and I know for a lot of other people that I talk to who do like just doing art recreationally, it can help lower your stress levels. And so with that being said, I'll start out with I'm not looking for perfection, and neither should you. This is actually just an exploration in being creative. It's all about the experience. So if yours doesn't look exactly like mine, that's okay. Maybe, you know, in the future, if you put more time into your own painting journey, you'll get a little bit more close to what I have here. But these are all fairly easy paintings that I've created. And this is the painting we'll be doing together today. So it's pretty easy, and it's fun. It's a lot of mixing colors and creating new colors. Now if you can take a moment to, while I set the camera up here, just let me know where you're from and how you're feeling today. I'd be interested to know how you're feeling at the beginning of the painting session, and then I'll ask again at the end if anything's changed or if maybe you feel the same. So maybe you're coming into this session today feeling a little worried, maybe hopeful. Are you anxious? Are you excited to learn something new? Are you just happy? And all those different types of things. I want to hear how you're feeling today. Now I hope everybody has had a chance to put their paint on a plate. So here's my plate. I have green, blue, red, yellow, and white. We may use some additional colors later on if you have them, but I'm not going to put them on the plate just yet because we're going to be doing a lot of mixing with these colors. So the first thing we're going to do is add a little bit of water to our canvas. We can do that two different ways. One is if you have a little spray bottle like this, and I love having these around, they're very handy. Give your canvas a little bit of water. It will help the paint glide over more smoothly. If you don't have a little spray bottle, just dip your paintbrush in water and add a little bit of water, not so that it drips, but just add a little bit of water to the canvas that way. So that's our first step. Just making sure we have a little bit of water on there. It'll help a lot with when we go to cover it. First color we're going to use is a very light sky blue. So I'm going to take a tiny bit of blue. I'll put it in the middle there. I'm going to scoop up some of this white and I'm going to mix it together. You can use your brush to mix it. We're going to get into the finger painting after we get this first layer down. So you always want to remember that you can always add more blue to it if you need it to be a little bit darker. It's your sky, so you decide how dark blue your sky is going to be. And then always too, it just dries a little bit darker, so just keep that in mind. This is my blue. I've mixed up a little bit. You can always mix up more too. If you run out, just come back in, grab the same colors you grabbed the first time and mix up the same color, and you'll know that it matches because this will be on your plate and you just match that color again. Okay, I'm going to start up here and I'm just going to cover this whole canvas in this color. If you're just joining us, I've asked everyone just to leave me a comment if you're comfortable, to let me know where you're from and how you're feeling today, and just how you're feeling coming into this paint class. Does this paint class make you excited to learn something new? Are you hopeful that it's going to leave you feeling more calm? Are you a little anxious about trying something new? Just leave me a comment to let me know how you're feeling. Awesome. Hi, Rosemary. Oh, hi, Renee. Nice to hear from you. You're feeling excited. That's great. It's important to, as you're doing painting, just to realize, you know, where your mind floats to, and maybe even try to just bring it back to concentrate on this one thing. We're painting something new and bright, and this is time for us to kind of put aside maybe what's worrying us. There's a lot going on in the world right now, and this is a nice time just to kind of, if a thought comes in, you know, honor it. If it's something that, oh, you just remembered you have to do, take a pen and write it down for sure, but then release it and come back to the present. What we're doing right now is just creating together. Now with the water, you kind of do have to be careful. Water could be acrylic's best friend. It could also be its worst enemy. If you have too much water, it'll pool like this. And if you don't have enough, you'll find that you're pulling the paint and it's leaving a lot of white marks. The other really great thing about acrylic is it's really forgiving. So if you make a mistake, you just have to wait for it to dry and you can go right back over top of it. This first layer should be fairly thin because we are going to be just going right over top of it again with our next layer. It's always a good idea to cover your whole canvas, whether it's in the white or you're choosing a different background color. It depends not really on what you're creating. And today I chose to cover the whole canvas in this light blue. Oh, hi. I don't know how to say the same, but I'm gonna try. Tika? I'm happy your kids are joining us. Oh, from California, that's awesome. And Beverly from London is feeling happy and hopeful. That's awesome. Everybody's in a great mood today. And if you're not in a great mood, that's okay. We'll check back in with you at the end and see if maybe this time that you've invested in yourself has put you in a little bit of a happier mood. So if you're just joining us, welcome. We have been mixing some blue and white together, and we're painting the first layer of our fields and clouds painting, and we're just taking some time to put this first layer on. We are using a little bit of water to help the paint flow. If you're using dollar store paint, you might find you don't need water or as much because it already comes out pretty thin. So that's one of the good aspects of dollar store paint, is it's pretty watered down. So it's really good for certain projects. If you need more paint on your plate, don't be afraid to add it. It's better to properly cover it than to worry about saving your paint for another day. Now, if you're thinking ahead, or if you're just a really quick painter and you're waiting for the rest of us to catch up to you, painting around the edges is also a really good idea, because if you're gifting it to somebody and you're not going to frame it, it looks more done. Or if you're just going to hang it in your house too and you don't want to buy a frame, if you paint the edges, it just gives it that finished look. You see I'm adding a little bit of water as it dries out. It's pretty hot in the room that I'm painting in, so my paint is drying pretty quickly, and so is my canvas. So feel your own situation out. If you don't think you need more water, you don't have to add it when I add it. Need some more white over here. So adding a little bit more white, mixing up some more blue to finish it off. Let me know in the comments if you're finished painting your backgrounds. I'm finding a few white spots, so I'm just touching those up. Sort of peeking through the blue. If at any time I'm going too quickly for you in the next, I think we have about 2 hours left together, we never delete our live broadcasts. So all you have to do is go to the Attached Niagara Caring Connected Communities group, and from there you just scroll down and you can find it on there. I'm working on uploading a few to my Facebook page as well. I just haven't gotten around to it yet, but it's always there. So if you want to try this again, or if you want to be able to pause it, you can go looking for it a little bit later too. All right, I made it. Is anyone else finished painting the blue? I'm just catching my edges here. Again, just as it dries, you might notice a few white spots poking out here and there. You just go back in, and a little touch up. Now for the next step, we will need a pencil, or ideally a piece of chalk, but a pencil will work. Whenever we use pencil on canvas, it's important to remember not to press too hard, because you don't want to indent the canvas or even poke through. So whenever we use pencil, we have a very light touch to it. I'm going to give you another minute to finish up on that, and then I'm going to move on to the next step. I kind of like it like this. Maybe I'll leave it. No, I can't do that to you guys. Renee, is your son with you painting? If you have too much paint on your canvas, if it's too thick, just thin it out. Pull it down and it will dry quickly. Mine's almost dry. If you put it too thick, you'll have problems following along with the next step. So you'll just want to like sort of pull the wet spots and blend it into some spots that aren't quite as wet, and that should help it dry a little bit more quickly. Okay, so the next step, grab a pencil or ideally a piece of chalk. Now I'm just going to grab the original here, or this one's actually from another paint class too. I've done this one a couple times, but I liked this version. So you can see this horizon line is at about, if you broke your painting into thirds, it's about 1/3 of the way up. So you just want to, back there, you just want to, when your painting is dry, you're going to mark, this is like a third right there. Now I know you guys can't really see that too well, so I will bring the my painting a little bit closer to the camera so you can see the line that I'm creating. Just chalk any old line straight across, about 1/3 of the way across is good. Yeah, I like that right there. And then this is wet, so I can't chalk on it too much, but there we go. I'm not in love with this song, so I am going to just finding some different music because that was a little bit crazy for me. Yeah, that's a little bit better for me. It's a little bit more relaxing. Okay, so we've got this line on. Perfect. Now we're going to put some perspective lines. So if you're just joining us now, we've painted the background a light sky blue. We're drawing on our horizon line with either chalk or pencil will do. Either one will do. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It can have some ups and downs. You'll see as we go why perfection isn't necessarily the goal here. But what we do want is a little bit of perspective. So we find the middle of our canvas and we draw an upside down V. And this is to give us a guide on how to apply the colorful paint. And from there you're going to fan it out. So those are my first lines, and again you can use pencil for this. So it's right in the middle. I've drawn sort of an upside down V here, and then I'm fanning lines out from there. So that's the first two, and then this is all about perspective. It's not necessarily going to be one color, one color, one color, but it's just to give us angles. And whatever you do on one side, you do on the other side. So fanning it out. And here, when you get to the corner, on both sides, you're gonna end up getting to the corner. Now what do you do when you reach the corners? Well, your lines become a lot shorter now, so you're still fanning, still following that, but you're shortening the lines and you're bringing them to the edge instead. So let me know how you're doing with this. So this was the first one we started with, directly in the center of the painting, just an inverted V, and then we followed that pattern all the way out. And it's a guide for our perspective point and how we're going to be applying paint going forward. So for everybody who has a brown, either one of these from Michael's or Walmart, or maybe you have one from the dollar store, that's great. So if you have a brown, perfect. For this part, if you don't have a brown, I'm just going to quickly show you how to make brown out of these colors. Now everybody's browns might be a little bit different, and that's okay. So I'm just going to start by scooping up some yellow and some blue. Now I'm going to add in some red. About double the amount of the red and blue, or the blue and yellow. So it's 1 part yellow, 1 part blue, 2 parts red. And these are all brilliant colors, so it's brilliant red, brilliant blue, brilliant yellow. And I usually use the same color palette every time I create a painting, just in case, because it's there's a pack that you can buy from Michael's that has all these colors in it. So it's a pretty safe bet that. Okay, and then if you want to add a little bit of white to this, just a touch of white. You can see which color maybe is dominant. So sometimes it's blue, sometimes it's red, and then you can add a little bit of whatever the opposite color is. So I'm making a fairly dark brown. I'm going to add a little bit of white to it. Now if you have your own brown, you don't have to do this step. So I add a little bit more white in there and a little bit more red in there too. And I think I'm happy with this brown. I might, for a later step, lighten it up a little bit, but it's pretty brown to me. So I've added a little bit more red in there, just to bring it to a different, kind of closer to a brown that I had before. So anytime you mix these three colors together, you're gonna get a muddy look. So that's something you want to remember as we're going through this. When we're finger painting, it's important not to over mix the colors on the canvas, or else your whole bottom half will look like that color. So it's a balancing act, and I'll give you tips along the way. Okay, so here's where we get our fingers involved. So if you want, you can add a little bit of a touch of water, a drop of water to your mixture there, or you can use your spray bottle and give it a spray. But either way, if you don't want to ruin your manicure, now's the time to put on some gloves. Fair warning. And get your fingers in there, because it's more fun if you go without the gloves. And the first thing you're going to do, you can use, if you've got big fingers, you can use your pinky finger. Maybe start with the pinky or the ring finger. But whatever finger you choose, all you're doing is you're going to pull a line straight across your line that you made there. So for some of us, this is because we're not looking for perfection, and because we are finger painting, this is really a lesson in letting go for some of us. Oh, Sylvia, you missed the line drawing. It's, if you go straight down from the center, you want to do an inverted V. That's this part right here. And then from there you just fan out and you mirror each side. When you get to the corner, your lines start getting a little bit shorter, and this is just a guide for perspective. It's not an outline for how we're going to paint it. It's just a guide. So you can still follow along as I apply the paint and get the same idea. I just find it's helpful to give that little step to people. So yeah, so you'll see if you start now experimenting with different fingers, you'll see some are going to provide a little bit more control than others. If you use a big finger versus a small finger, you might be able to place the color a little bit more accurately. And the big fingers I find are really good for blending. So this doesn't have to be a solid straight line. You want a little bit of ups and downs. I'm going to put a little bit of white on my finger and a little bit of brown on this finger, and I'm going to go back in and I'm going to mix right on the canvas. And this will just give my line a little bit of interest rather than it just being all one color. And we will be going back over this line later. This is going to act for a stop line for when we add the extra colors. Now, before we move on any further, I'm just going to show you the original again. So everybody take a look up, and you can kind of see where we're going next. Okay, so for my center one, I always like to kind of start with sort of like a yellow ochre, if I can make it on here. Now, if you have one, if you have a color like this, you can save yourself from mixing. But if you want to have fun along with us and try to mix our own, I'm going to show you how to make that color. So just a little bit of the brilliant yellow and the brilliant red, more yellow than red, and we're just going to mix it. You can use a brush to mix. I like to use my finger. Now, depending on how bright you like your colors, you can stay here, or you can add a tiny little bit more red and bring it into a completely different tone. And then if you feel you've gone too far, just add a little bit more yellow. So there we are. Made our own. I'm going to add a little squirt to the mixture I just made. You can add a drop using your brush. You can let it drop. But I would, now that we've muddied up the water, it's always a good idea to have a clean cup of water, one for cleaning off your brushes and then one that's just clean, clear water. Because if you added water that you rinsed this off into this, it'll darken it quite a bit. So if you need time, go get yourself a second cup of water for mixing, because it'll just help you when you go to apply the color if you have a little bit of water in there. Now don't worry if colors start mixing, because you've got colors on your hands now. You have a rag or a paper towel you can wipe off if you're too worried. And then don't worry about going over this line, because we will be going over it again. And the idea here is you're just smearing it into the canvas. You can stay within these lines. These are directional lines. They're not color lines. So if I wanted to add a little bit more bright yellow in there, I can put a little bit of bright yellow and then maybe some of the mixture on that finger. So I'm using two different fingers. I can add a line of bright yellow, but as long as it's going in the direction of the chalk line, you should be fine no matter what color you're using. So yeah, I always like to just start with this sort of yellow, orangey color, really earthy tone. And go all the way to the bottom. Okay, so I have this on my fingers now. You can wipe it off, but it should be pretty dry. You can give it a little wipe though. I'm gonna do blue next, so I'm gonna take this finger and put blue on it, and this finger and put white on it, maybe a little bit more white. And I'm gonna go beside it. Now, we're mixing right on the canvas, so it's kind of fun like that. You get to see the color pop out. And maybe you have a little bit of orange still on your finger and it kind of finds its way in there. So this is sort of where the magic happens. Now you want to bring the colors next to each other. So go ahead and blend over that line And you can do that by rubbing your finger over it several times, and you'll find that it's pretty seamless, and a new color also emerges between those two colors, so that's fun to watch too. So I warned you this one was a messy one, but it's lots of fun. So I'm going to bring this a little bit closer so you can see my progress. See how they're touching? And they sort of make almost like a very hint of a green there as they touch. You know, finger painting has a lot of benefits for children and their development. And it's usually something that you see teachers, you know, doing with really young kids, and that's because it's good for their development of their fine motor skills and visual spatial skills, things like that. But for adults, it's also a really interesting just connection to putting a little bit of green on there, and I'm going to put some white. It's a really interesting connection to your body, right? So your mind and your body, feeling the paint under your fingertips. I don't know if anybody's squeezed the paint in between their hands before, but that's always an interesting feeling too. And it also brings back good memories for me of just being a little kid in school, and you know, just being free to create, not have to worry about anything, just what I was making. Not have to worry about it being perfect lines, so some of the pressure is off. You know, you're just connecting to something that's important inside of you. Okay, so I'm going to take some of this brown that I made and a little bit of white and I think yellow on this finger. So I'm going to use 3 fingers this time for my next line here. And again, the trick here is you're going in that fan direction out from the center towards the corners. So you're not going up and down. If you go up and down, it doesn't give the illusion that it's perspective sort of in the distance. Nice little landscape that we're making. And your colors aren't going to be exactly like mine, so I want you to experiment. If you have other colors that you want to add into here, I'm going to add a few into the clouds after, but if you wanted to add something like, you know, a purple down here or even a pink, that's up to you. I mean, that could just be a row of tulips, right? I think right now I have maybe some wheat, maybe some bluebells, some grass, maybe some corn, I don't know, whatever your imagination's telling you. And a lot of times people like to use maybe colors that they find inside their house so that they can hang it. Maybe, you know, your bathroom is, I don't know, red and white, so you might want to add a little bit of red in here, and maybe it'll go into your washroom later. But it's all up to you if you want to add a few extra colors or just follow along with what I'm doing. So I guess we're not going to get a lot of typing right now because our fingers are all dirty. I'm gonna look at the comments later because I can't really answer either. So I put a little bit of green on here, and again I'm gonna put a little tiny bit of that brown that I made. So green, brown, maybe a little bit of yellow. So you want lines, but not defined lines. You want them to blend into each other just a little bit. I think I might just do one that's fairly white next. So maybe a white one with a little bit of this orange that I had made before, just a tiny little bit. So I'm going to do white and orange. Ooh, that's tricky, I can't do that. And orange. But mainly white. I kind of like the way a white line might look right here. So I'm just gonna let you fill in your bottom half, and I'm gonna do that too, and you can watch me for tips or just leave me a comment if there's something that you need me to answer. And we're gonna work together a little bit right now, just with a little bit of calm music on. So one tip I have for you is if you find that your colors are all sort of blending into a brown looking color, just let that side dry and try again on this side, keeping the colors a little bit more separated so you don't have just a brown muddy thing, because this will dry fairly quickly and you can come back and you can add greens and blues over top. It dries fairly quickly, so I'll just come back over top of it. Again, if your paint's not gliding as smoothly as you'd like, just add some water. Just a little bit of clean water. Don't be afraid to use your paint. That's what it's there for. So if you want to add more paint to your fingers, if that feels right to you, add more paint. As long as you're going in this fanning motion, any combination of colors should work. Okay, Sylvia, just sit tight and we'll start on the clouds fairly soon. You can just kind of touch yours up if you want, add a few colors over top, because when it dries sometimes you notice a few white spots. Like I can see a white spot here. I'll bring it close so you can see. So right there. So now that it's dry, I can go back in and add a little bit of green to it, to sort of fill it back in. Add a little bit more interest by adding slightly different color or shade over top. And white, blue, and white. So let me know if you're finished this part. I'm gonna bring it closer to the camera so you can see how mine turned out. Lots of different colors in there. Lots of different combinations. Okay, it looks like we have a few that are finished. The bottom says awesome. Okay, so now we're going to start on the sky. It's going to be mostly white to begin with, and we're going to slowly add a few different colors in. And again, it's just abstract finger painting. So my fingers are pretty dirty. If you want to go wash your hands, you can, because we're not going to use these dark browns or yellows in the sky. Well, we might use a little bit of yellow, but I mean, that's up to you. So, but what I would do is try to get some of that off your hands. So I'm going to give everybody a minute to go wash their hands off. Okay, so hopefully we're all back and fairly clean. You're gonna add some more white to your palette for sure. I'm adding quite a little pile here. I'm using the dollar store stuff because it's already watered down. But if you're using the thicker paint, just use your clean water and you can either squirt or drip some into it. Mix it up, mix it in there. I like to have a little bit looser paint, especially the white paint when I'm using my fingers. Okay, and I'm just going to show you the original again. So this is this is the mess we're about to make. And I think there's not too many rules to it or too much to teach you. It's really about how you feel. But the one thing I would say is down closer to this dark line, and we will go over this dark line one more time before we're finished. You want to leave a gap of blue. So you want to start by adding a little bit here. And your clouds on the bottom, you want them to be a little bit smaller. So just start by maybe you press down with one finger and then maybe 1, 2, 3 and then smear it a little bit for another cloud. But these are fairly small along this line, and you do want some blue in between. But when you get up top, they're going to be much larger and fluffier and more to play with. So we do want to see this blue poking through. So we're not going to cover the whole thing, but we're going to cover quite a bit of it. And using your fingers, just putting like a fair amount on and kind of going to town. And you'll feel it. You're rubbing some in and really rubbing it in for sort of a more blended look. Or you're leaving some just kind of goopy on there, and it will just create a combination of different looks for you. Now I did say we are using a lot of white. You can see here I'm leaving a little bit of the goops where there's a lot more white, and I'll blend out a little bit on the bottom. Again, applying a lot, using my fingers to just sort of blend it out. And we're going to do a lot of that all across. So if you're just coming back or you miss that little bit, I'm putting some smaller clouds along the horizon line, but I'm leaving about an inch worth of blue because I don't want it to touch don't want it to appear to be touching the ground. Straighten this up a little bit for you at this point. So I'm just taking my fingers and then I'll leave some fairly thick like that piece. You can leave it thick like that. Why not, right? It's just the sky. Landscapes are fun to do. Nature sort of orders itself, so you can't really do too much wrong with adding clouds, especially if they're abstract clouds like these ones, because you know, nature has this funny way of just working out and spacing out, and so that's why I like doing landscapes, because it gives me freedom to say, okay, well I've seen this before, but I can make it my own, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Because I'm just creating. And again, like with the lower half, with the top half, if you've done something you're not completely fond of, just let it dry. We can mix some more of this blue up and we can go over top of it, and it will look like you never made the mistake in the first place. So go ahead and put one layer of white all the way across, and then when we get to this side, we'll come back and we'll add little pieces of color throughout it, and then we'll go back over and we might add little white in here or there. Again, just to touch it up a little bit. Okay, Rosemary, I see you there. So I guess I'll just give a quick rundown of the cloud situation. So we're using white and we've watered it down just a little bit. If you're using dollar store, you don't have to. And we're gonna leave about an inch gap here so that the blue shows through and the clouds aren't touching the horizon, because it's going to give us the illusion that they're in the distance. We're gonna start with maybe like just do 1 finger clouds down here. Maybe you do a 2 finger cloud and smear it a little bit. But the clouds along this line are going to be the smaller clouds. When you get up to the top, you can do all 3 fingers and really just scoop it on there and then thin out certain parts of it. Draw it out. We're gonna cover probably 80% of the sky with these fluffy clouds that we're just gonna swirl around and blend out. We're gonna go all the way across with the white, and then we're gonna go back with a few other colors that we're gonna sprinkle in. And don't be too worried about messing up or it looking like a real cloud, because that's not what we're looking for. So I don't want to see anybody drawing clouds with their finger. I don't want to see anybody going like this. That's not, I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for, put it on, smear it around, blend it out, have fun with it. Don't take it seriously at all. Just have fun. You're creating a sky. Your very own creation. Oh, I got a little bit of green in there, but that's okay. It's hiding under my nail. Rosemary, do you need any tips? There's that green again. How are you doing, Sylvia? Or Sylvana, sorry, Sylvana. I'm already getting some colors mixing in on their own. Okay, so I have gone one way with the white, and I'm going to go back the other way, adding a little bit of colors here and there just to create some interest and really make it interesting for me, because for me, I like adding strange colors in weird places. And then I'm going to go back over and touch up some more white on the way back. So first color I'm going to mix up is just a little bit of blue and white together. I'm going to make it fairly light. And then I'm going to add a touch of green to it. So this is, it's harder to see, but this is my white and blue, and then I'm adding a tiny touch of green, and I'm just mixing it in there. I'm going to lighten it up quite a bit, so I'm going to add a lot more white to it. It's hard to see this one, but I'll show you the color. Okay, so I just want to add a little bit of, maybe a little bit of blue in the clouds. What you don't want to do is go a spot of blue, spot of blue, spot of blue, spot of blue. There shouldn't be a pattern. It has to be random. So a little bit there, maybe here, there. You can put it over top of blue areas that haven't quite gotten any white clouds on them yet too, and that's fine. So I just added a little bit of blue to the white clouds. Now some of you might have like a purple or something like that. I have this, it's light violet, and I would actually add, white to that, as well as to this one. This one is a light blue violet. So these are nice colors for the sky too. I'm going to add a tiny little bit of this blue violet, just a tiny bit. Like I said, I wanted to add some white to it so it's not so dark. I lighten it up so it's a little bit softer in the clouds. And just throw a little bit in there randomly. I'm going to make a pale green color, a little bit of that in there. So it's really up to you how much color you want in the sky. And we're not done. We're going to go back over it with some more white. So we're just creating layers, lots of layers. It's an optical illusion. Okay, so I'm going to go back over with the white now. So some of these are going to get a little bit over top. Like I said, you want about 85% of your sky covered here. You want to let some of those colors peek through or blend them in if they're still wet. There is one more color I like to add to this painting to pull the bottom into the top more, is that yellow and red mixture that we made for the center here. I like to make that color again, so just yellow and red, and then add some white to it, soften it up so that it belongs in the clouds. Not anything too harsh up there. And then I add a little bit in there too. So at this point, you're gonna just add white until you're happy with how your clouds are looking. And then the final step would be just to go over this line one more time with your brown, just to hide all those marks that we made, because this was really a guideline. When you're going over it, don't go above it. If anything, if you want to make it thicker, start where it starts and then go down. That way you're still leaving a nice blue line between the clouds. So then if you're done, take a picture of it and comment a picture. We all want to see what you've created. This is Sylvana's first time participating in the gentle painting. Last time she was just an observer, and this time she ran out and got some paint supplies, so I'm curious to see how you did. Is anyone else done already? Maybe you have a smaller canvas than I do. But I mean, the rest is really just touch-ups here now. You could go on forever creating layers and softening edges. Okay, so I think my sky is looking pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up some brown and I'm going to go over that line one more time. And if you weren't here when we mixed our brown the first time, if you don't have brown, you can use a combination of 1 part yellow, 1 part blue, and 2 parts red, and it will get you pretty close. Just play with it until you have the color that you feel works best for your painting. I often add a little bit of white to it as well, just to give me an idea of what the dominant color is, because I do want my dominant color in my brown to be red. And then I just drag it over top of all this mess I made earlier with all these little lines coming up. I've dropped a little bit of white on here, so I might go back in and kind of cover that up too. It's like I said, acrylic's pretty forgiving. If you let it dry, you can just paint right over top. Yeah, so we're just kind of, a lot of us are fixing some mistakes we noticed from before, and that's good because we have the time to look at it as it's drying and go, oh, well, that spot could use a little bit of green, or maybe I should have did that a little bit lighter. I kind of play around with this brown area a little bit. I like to add a little bit of white in and maybe some different tones of brown too. Okay, so I'm quite happy with the way that is. Show you a little bit of hints of different colors in there. Now I'm gonna fix this blender here. I'm even getting some other colors in there now. Alright, so that one's fixed up. Is this blue coming from? No, I don't want blue. Well, maybe I do. Alright, so we're kind of getting close to the end here. You really just have to look at yours and say, you know, where are the areas that maybe I want a little bit of this color or a little bit of that color, and then, you know, concentrate on those areas a little bit longer. Before everybody goes, I wanted to let you know that the next gentle painting will be on Sunday, the 26th of July. So if you enjoyed this, or you enjoyed watching along and you want to hang out with us again, Sunday, July 26th. Alright, don't forget to take pictures and share them in the comments of your creations today. And if you're watching in the rebroadcast, please do the same. Please also let us know where you're from. It's always interesting to see how far a video reaches. And that's our painting for today. I'm just going to turn the camera a little bit here. So thank you so much for painting along with me, and I hope that you enjoyed this finger painting experience and a little break from the everyday. So if you want to follow me as an artist, you can join my Facebook page, Art by Rhiannon. You can also look up my website. It's www.bwhimsy, so B-E-W-H-I-S, or W-H-I-M-S-I, and then Artloft, ARTLOFT.ca. Okay? So I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and please don't forget to share your lovely creations with me. Thank you very much.